Allie Potts, and I'm in 8th grade. My teacher is Mrs. Ford.
My name is Patricia Smith, and I teach 4th grade here at the Master School, and this is my 4th year teaching. Before I started having children, I taught for 5 years in the public school system, and I taught 2nd grade all 5 years.
We're John and Camille Wheelock, and we have 4 children at the Master School. This is Clay, and he is in 1st grade. This is Macy, she's in 3rd grade. And this is Aubrey, she's in 1st grade with Clay. And this is Galena, she is in 6th grade.
First became part of the Master School family way back in 1996 when my oldest son, we were looking for a place for him to go to kindergarten. Our plan was that he would come to kindergarten at the Master School for 1 year, and then we would switch him over to public school after that. We fell in love with the Master School in 1996, and I've had a child here at the Master School ever since that year, and all 3 of my children have gone through it.
I remember finding out about the Master School because of a woman that told me that many years ago that her son was attending the Master School, and it was very different, and that he was learning about blind people doing very hands-on things in kindergarten. It was actually the Murdoch family, and they had a kindergartner there that was in the Mother's Day Out program with my child at the time, and he just came, and I remember being very impressed with him and his abilities and thinking that would be a neat school for my children to attend. And then my niece ended up attending there and had Mrs. Carl, and we fell in love with Mrs. Carl. John and I were able to participate in the Pioneer Day with my niece being there, and we knew at that point that that's the place we wanted our children to be as well.
Right away we fell in love with Mrs. Carl because of Pioneer Day.
Right.
And we knew that when our children started kindergarten that we wanted her, nobody but her, to be their teacher.
My favorite thing about the Master School is the teachers. The teachers try really hard to incorporate God in everything they do. I really appreciate that, and I think everybody else does too.
As a teacher, I think the greatest thing that I've seen as a teacher is at the Master School, the class sizes are so small that you get an incredible opportunity to get to know each child very personally. You also are given the opportunity to work with each child one-on-one every single day. And if you have a child that's struggling, you have that opportunity to help them along because there aren't as many children to have to reach every day.
It was a real debate for us as to whether we should put them in private school or homeschool, just for simplicity's sake, because we are firm believers that nobody cares about your children as much as you do. And however, the Master School presents a different situation for us from a private perspective, in that it is a small school, small classrooms, very hands-on setting, and taught from a biblical perspective. And so we can't really ask for much more from a school than to have those criteria met in one setting outside of homeschooling.
When I grow up, I want to be a teacher because the teachers at the Master School show me that teaching is hard, but it is also fun. I want to be like them. I think the Master School has prepared me very well for the future. I have learned so many things socially, academically, and spiritually. I know that I will be able to take what I've learned and apply it later on.
Master School has impacted me personally in many ways. I think it was the reason I started exploring my faith and growing in my faith and wanting so much to learn more and to grow in my relationship with Christ. And that was through my children coming to the Master School and making me realize how little I did know. I've always considered myself a Christian my entire life, but as they came home and they were reciting scripture in kindergarten and in 1st grade, and they were scriptures that I wasn't familiar with, and it just really caused us as a family to look at that and to start exploring Bible study and reading the Bible as a family and just growing.
one of the most impactful things for me about the Master School is that children, even at the kindergarten level, are learning to memorize Scripture, lengthy passages of Scripture that a lot of kids that aren't asked to memorize in a private Christian school setting until they're in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And at the Master School, we've got kindergartners doing that. And they don't just do it haphazardly, they do it well. And they do it over and over and over again until it's not just a memory verse, it's something that is ingrained on their hearts and is something that they can recall months and even years after they've memorized it. And so to me, that's a really important thing for a child to be learning to memorize Scripture, something we all struggle with. I struggle with at 36 years old to memorize Scripture, and yet my kindergarten age children are doing it twice as well as I can. And that's a testament to the curriculum at the Master School for sure.
The most important lesson that I learned at the Master School was on my 7th grade retreat to Highland Lakes. I learned a lot about myself and about my classmates. We learned to work together and we learned our strengths and weaknesses. If I wasn't at the Master School, my life would be very different. I wouldn't have the friends I had, and I wouldn't have the great education that I have. The Master School has impacted me in so many ways, but the number one way is that I have learned more about myself and grown in my relationship with Christ.